Elena never imagined her life would take this turn. She had always pictured marriage as a fresh beginning, not a test of her patience, compassion, and heart. When she married Daniel, a man 10 years older than her, she thought she could handle the weight of his past. But she hadn't accounted for Adrian, his son. Adrian was 16 when she moved into their quiet suburban house. He was tall for his age, with storm-gray eyes that rarely met hers. He carried himself with the quiet bitterness of someone who had lost too much too soon. His mother had passed away 3 years ago, and though Daniel tried his best, the boy had built walls no one could climb. Elena tried. God, she tried. She would leave notes for him by the kitchen counter, ask about his day, even sit by his door, at night when she knew he was awake. At first, her kindness was met with silence, or worse, resentment. "You're not my mom," he snapped once when she suggested helping with his homework. She didn't press. She knew healing wasn't about forcing doors open, but waiting until they cracked on their own. One late evening, Elena heard muffled sounds from Adrian's room. She hesitated outside, then knocked softly. No answer. When she opened the door, she found him hunched over his desk, fists trembling, papers scattered around. His eyes were red, tears staining his cheeks. "Adrian," she whispered, stepping inside. He looked up, startled, then tried to wipe his face. "Get out." She ignored the command, sitting gingerly at the edge of his bed. "I won't ask what's wrong. But you don't have to go through it alone." Something in her tone softened him. He let out a shaky breath, collapsing into the chair. For a long time, they sat in silence, her presence the only comfort he allowed. Finally, words spilled out. "I hate it here. Everyone at school thinks I'm broken. Dad doesn't get it. And you're just pretending." His voice cracked. "She's gone, and none of this feels real anymore." Elena's heart twisted. She wanted to hold him, but she knew the wrong move could make him shut down again. So instead, she reached for one of the scattered papers. A sketch of a woman. Long dark hair, gentle eyes. His mother. "She'd be proud of you," Elena said softly. "For feeling so deeply, for still trying." Adrian's eyes brimmed again. For the first time, he didn't flinch when she placed her hand lightly over his. His skin was cold, trembling. And in that quiet moment, something fragile and unspoken formed between them, an understanding neither of them could name. When she left his room that night, Elena lay awake in her bed, heart unsettled. She told herself it was maternal concern, nothing more. But deep down, she knew. Something had shifted. The weeks that followed carried a subtle change. Adrian, once so withdrawn, began to hover in Elena's orbit. He would appear in the kitchen, when she cooked, silently peeling vegetables or standing too close at the counter. He started bringing his homework to the dining table, not asking for help, but not pushing her away either. One Saturday, she found him in the backyard, struggling with a broken bicycle chain. Elena crouched beside him, grease staining her fingers, as she worked the latch free. "You need patience," she teased, smiling faintly. For a moment his lips curved, the first smile she had ever coaxed from him. It warmed her more than she admitted. Slowly, Adrian began to open up. He spoke about his classes, his dislike for sports, his secret love for sketching. Elena encouraged it, sometimes sitting beside him while he drew, admiring the way his hands moved with careful precision. "You see people differently," she told him one evening as he sketched her profile without asking. His gaze lifted, locking with hers longer than necessary. Something stirred in his eyes, something that made her chest tighten. At first, she dismissed it. He was just a boy, grieving, clinging to the only person who seemed to understand him. But as the days stretched on, she couldn't ignore the way. His glances lingered, how his voice softened when he spoke to her, how, once, his hand brushed hers as she passed him a plate, and he didn't pull away. It was dangerous. She knew it. But she also knew the loneliness of her own marriage. Daniel worked long hours, often distant even when he was home. Their conversations had thinned into schedules and obligations, leaving Elena with a void she rarely acknowledged. One night. She found Adrian sketching in the living room. The house was quiet. Daniel working late again. She sat beside him, watching as his pencil traced lines across the page. "Who's that?" she asked softly. He hesitated, then turned the sketch toward her. It was her, every detail of her face captured with startling tenderness. Her breath caught. "Adrian." His voice was low, almost trembling. "You're the only one who sees me, the only one who cares." Elena's throat tightened. She should have corrected him, set boundaries. But instead, she placed her hand on his shoulder, her heart beating far too fast. For the first time, she realized this wasn't just maternal concern. Something deeper, something forbidden, was taking root between them. Elena tried to ignore it. She convinced herself that Adrian's affection was harmless, a teenage crush that would fade with time. But his eyes told a different story. Every glance lingered too long. Every brush of contact carried heat. One rainy afternoon, they sat together on the couch, a movie flickering across the screen. Adrian stretched out, his shoulder brushing hers. She meant to shift away, but the warmth of him beside her was oddly comforting. When thunder cracked outside, he flinched, then leaned into her as if seeking shelter. Instinctively, Elena wrapped an arm around him. His body stiffened, then relaxed into her embrace. The hug lasted longer than it should have. Long enough for her to feel the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against her chest. Long enough for her to wonder why she didn't pull away. "Elena," he murmured, his voice raw. She looked down, and their eyes locked. For a moment, the world shrank to just the two of them. The rain outside, the faint glow of the TV, the heat of his breath against her cheek. Then he whispered it. "Sometimes I dream about you." Her heart stopped. "Adrian, no," she said quickly, her voice trembling. She tried to laugh, but the sound broke. "That's not right." But the damage was done. The truth was out. He wasn't just confused. He wanted her. For days afterward, she avoided him, guilt gnawing at her, but distance only deepened the tension. He lingered in doorways, found excuses to touch her arm, watched her with eyes that burned with something far older than his years. One evening, he caught her in the hallway, his hand brushing against hers. The jolt of contact made her gasp. He leaned closer, his voice husky. "You feel it too. Don't tell me you don't." Elena's chest tightened. She wanted to deny it, to push him away, but her body betrayed her, because she did feel it. That night, she lay awake in bed beside Daniel, her mind spiraling. She knew a line was forming, one she could not allow herself to cross, and yet she also knew she was already standing at its edge. It happened on a quiet evening when Daniel was away on a business trip. The house felt too large, too empty. Elena tried to distract herself with chores, but Adrian appeared in the kitchen, restless, eyes shadowed with longing. They ate dinner, together their conversation low, heavy with unspoken things. When she rose to clear the table, his hand caught hers. "Stay," he whispered. She froze. "Adrian, I can't pretend anymore," he said, his voice breaking. "I love you. Not like a mother. Not like a boy loves family. I love you as a man loves a woman." Her breath hitched. Every rational thought screamed at her to stop this. But when his hand cupped her cheek, when his lips brushed hers with trembling desperation, all her resolve shattered. She should have pulled away. Instead, she kissed him back. The night unfolded in a blur of heat and guilt. In his room, away from the world, they crossed the line both had feared. His hands traced her skin with reverence, his body pressed to hers with aching need, and though shame gnawed at her, another truth burned brighter. She wanted him, too. When it was over, they lay tangled in silence, their breaths ragged. Elena turned away, tears stinging her eyes. "We shouldn't have—" But Adrian's voice was steady. "I don't regret it. Not for a second." She wished she could say the same. The following days were a torment of secrets. Elena avoided Daniel's eyes, her guilt a weight that threatened to crush her. Every glance at Adrian was a reminder of the night they had shared, every smile, every whispered word replaying in her mind. Adrian, however, seemed transformed. He walked with a quiet confidence, his gaze unwavering whenever it found hers. He no longer hid his feelings, even in the smallest gestures, a lingering look, a brush of his hand. Daniel noticed. One evening, as they sat at dinner, Daniel's eyes flicked between his wife and son, suspicion narrowing his features. "You two seem close lately," he said carefully. Elena's heart stuttered. Adrian only shrugged, his expression unreadable. But when Daniel excused himself later, Adrian leaned toward her, his whisper fierce. "Don't be afraid. We belong to each other." Her stomach twisted. Belong? The words both thrilled and terrified her. The following week, Daniel announced another business trip. Adrian found her alone in the kitchen afterward, his hands sliding around her waist. "He doesn't see you," he murmured. "But I do. And I'll never stop." Elena shivered under his touch, torn between fear and desire. She pushed him away weakly. "This will destroy us." "Or it will set us free," Adrian replied. His eyes blazed with a certainty she lacked. That night, Elena lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She knew the truth. No matter what choice she made, her life would never return to what it had been. She had stepped into a storm, and there was no safe way back. Whether it was love or betrayal, salvation or ruin, only time would tell.